work and your experience around the suicide and your understanding about it.
Oh, well, I have some reactions on what you've just said, and maybe I'll share them a little bit later. Well, my name is Julia. I was born and raised in the country that doesn't exist anymore, Soviet Union, in the part called Latvia. Latvia is a separate country of the Baltic states. And I moved to Northern Ireland 13 years ago. So I live and work in Northern Ireland. I'm a psychologist. I'm existential psychotherapist. I'm a healer. I'm working with all those dimensions you, Eliana, mentioned. Especially, I love a spiritual one. And also, I am instructor of NeuroGraphica, and this is fantastic method that can help us to connect with this higher spirit with the help of drawing simple lines and figures. And I came up to a conclusion after being a psychotherapist for over 20 years now, that sometimes it is hard to bring people to this high level of existence, spiritual level, through talking. But through drawing and creating, we can hit our unconscious mind much quicker. As for about what you were talking about, suicidal thoughts and killing. When I was trained to be a psychotherapist, we had crisis training there. And a woman who was training us, she had a phone line for people in crisis. And she told us a story about someone who found once being in that suicidal mood.
Was that in Northern Ireland or in
No, it was in Lithuania, because I was getting my psychotherapeutic degree in Lithuania. There is 3 institutes in the world that teach existential psychotherapy. One is in England, one is in Lithuania, and one is in the United States, and I think somewhere in South America, either Argentina or somewhere there.
Wow.
So the one I was taking, it was close to where I live in Lithuania, and that woman was from Lithuania, and she told me something that actually hit me very hard. He was talking to this guy over the phone who wanted to kill himself, because I don't usually use the word suicide. I use the word kill. To me, it's killing. It's not, it's...
Yeah.
So, because that, when you usually use this word to describe what a person is trying to do to himself, it's hard. It's a harder word than suicide to me. So anyway, she was telling that she was on the phone with that guy, and then she told me one thing, and that thing hits me. She said, when you kill someone, you kill one person. But when you kill yourself, you kill the whole world. I'm saying that now, and I have goosebumps all over my body, because to me, it was like a revelation. I was like, oh my God, that's so true. And here I'm not talking about that killing someone is a good thing, obviously not. But think about it. When we kill ourselves, we kill the whole world, because the world doesn't exist anymore. And even if we don't believe in, if we don't believe in life after death, we still, by taking our own life, will kill the whole world, because we will never see the sun shining ever again, the water in the ocean. We will never feel that in with our skin. We will never breathe. But the problem here, sorry, I keep talking, but the problem here is when people are thinking about killing themselves, nothing matters to them apart to take away the pain. Because the person who is planning suicide is not a person who will commit it, but a person who made a plan in their head. They most of the time it is very hard to help them to change this plan because of the tunnel vision. They only see the only way out is through dying. And I think this is very, very sad, first of all. If me as psychotherapist, I can broaden up a little bit their vision, just a little bit, to help them see something on the left or on the right from that tunnel vision, then I can bring that person back to life. But this is one of the hardest parts in being psychologist or psychotherapist.
Yeah.
And nothing, actually, it's very hard to find words. I think we can do it through just being there, being next to this person and trying to understand what this person is going through.
So you lost a client to suicide.
I did, yeah. And when I started my career as psychotherapist, we were talking about it a lot on our courses. What should you do if you have a suicidal client? What can happen, and what precautions we as psychotherapists can take, because it's very hard to survive after that.
For sure.
And you know what? We had like people being a psychotherapist for years and years, and they never had any suicidal clients, like people killing themselves. And for me, it was my second client. So I was just starting my career. I was training. I had supervisions. Everything was like the way it's supposed to be. And that was my second client. It was a guy who came over to me with a gambling issue. He wasn't actually suicidal. He had gambling issues. And when he came to the first visit, we held only 2 meetings, which wasn't a lot. But on the first one, I asked him this question. I just felt something. And I asked him, have you ever been thinking about killing yourself? And he told me yes. And I said, listen, we will be working. Well, I would agree to work with you only if you would promise me that while we are working, you wouldn't kill yourself. And he told me yes, because he wanted to live. He had 2 kids. So that was our first session, and then second session went really well. And after that, he never came back. Yes, and I found out that he actually committed suicide. He shot himself through military police. He was in the military. They phoned me and asked me to come over. And I was like, what is going on? They were like, we will tell you when we will have a meeting. And I knew immediately that something happened to him. So yes, and I was right. He was at work. When he didn't carry a gun all the time, he was in security. So then when he had a gun on him. And what happened was he was gambling all night. He lost money. He came to work, went to the bathroom, and shot himself.
Oh, wow. So
Young, very good-looking man, full of energy. Yeah.
how did that impact you as a person and as a professional? Would it be okay to talk about that a little bit? Because,
well,
this is a very good opportunity for education for people to really have take a second, take another take to realize the impact that their actions will have on other people, the people left behind.
It was hard for me to continue, actually. I obviously took supervision on that case. I brought the case. I can't even call it a case, but it was a case. I'm trying to dehumiliate that situation because it is a hard one to talk about. But yes, I went on supervision. I brought the case into the institute when I was studying. Everybody were shocked. They couldn't believe that I went through this because, again, it's not very often that can happen to psychotherapists. Usually people who actually are planning to kill themselves, they won't go to psychotherapy. Yeah. People who are planning suicide, they would go, but planning is not a decision yet. Mm. But when somebody decides, they wouldn't go home. They wouldn't look for help. Nobody would know even that they had decided to hang themselves, for example, or take tablets. Yeah. And the worst part is that sometimes when people are making that decision, they look happier. All of a sudden, they look like if they were in depression for years or months, when they come up with the certain idea when they're going to do it, they look more alive than they did before. And that can be a trick. That can trick their relatives.
That's an interesting concept and idea. That is not my experience with my husband. Because he was depressed. He didn't show any changes necessarily. In fact, if anything, he got more depressed.
And then he just did it.
Yeah.
Well, it can happen if you see that person maybe a couple of hours before they would decide. But then again, they would never ask for help. This is the worst part of decision making. So in this case, this person, it was an expected suicide. It was an impulse.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. It impacted me in a way that I was thinking to stop being a psychotherapist because, being honest, I had this idea that anybody can be helped.
Yeah.
That psychotherapy is a magic wand that can help every single person in the world.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I had this, idea, playing God. I can help anyone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm facing this where I cannot, I can't even talk to that person anymore. Not talking about helping. So that grounded me. And I realized that I can't do anything. There is nothing actually I can do. I cannot help. I can only be there next to the person who is going through some kind of experience in their life, and I can listen to them and do my best to hear what they're trying to tell me. To my mind, psychology and psychotherapy cannot help. And it might sound really weird.
I agree. I agree. Unfortunately, it is my experience too. because it can help. That's why I work as my approach has a holistic nature. We need to look at the whole person. Psychotherapy is like, we have to nurture all parts of ourselves. The psychotherapy and counseling is more of a mental talking kind of strategy that doesn't even often deal with the emotion, the rawness of the emotions, the cathartic elements of healing, and bringing in the spiritual side of things. Even if people do not believe in spirituality of any sort, we cannot deny the fact that we have a mind that we can't see, therefore it is metaphysical. It is a consciousness that lives somewhere that we don't really know, but I have some ideas. And we also have this emotional state that we tap into, that our experiences allow us to feel certain emotions. And again, we can feel them, but we can't see them. So therefore, they are also metaphysical. The only physicality that we have is the body. So,
And
so then, if we kill the body, there is part of us that lives on, in my experience and my belief. This is what I believe. What do you believe? Do you believe?
I know. I
Right.
don't believe. I
Yes.
know.
No, exactly. I know too. Yeah,
There
yeah.
is a difference between believing and knowing, and some
I
people,
know. I know for a fact that I'm more than this body. And then, there is a part of me that returns somewhere, to returns to spirit. I can only make sense of it, calling it a spiritual nature. I go back to spirit. My piece of soul goes back to source. Spirit being source in my understanding.
yes, and yeah, I would agree with you. The problem is there is only one problem, that in our world, modern reality, not only modern reality in general, the way our thinking was mm, developing, we left that idea of being more than just physical body. And actually, existential philosophy made us do that. When Nietzsche proclaimed that God is dead, so
Mm,
Nietzsche killed God,
mm,
people went into that loneliness
mm.
without a source.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of Nietzsche saying that was that God, as something that is outside,
Mm.
is not, well, it's not something that we should look at.
Yeah.
That God lives inside of
In,
all
in,
of us.
yes.
That
Yes.
was his idea, but it was changed into materialistic world,
Mm.
that only this life exists and nothing else. And
Mm.
existentialists, they have this, well, they have this idea in their philosophy that only this life exists and only this life should be lived. And I couldn't agree with that, because me being a spiritual person, I had my 100 odd hours of personal therapy, and I know myself inside out. I mean, this life.
Mm.
But I still had some questions where psychology couldn't find answers, because psychology is a science, trying to be. But how can human soul be a science? I still don't understand, because when we're talking about psychology, it's a knowledge about human soul.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But psychology wanted to be a science, and they were trying to make it a science, and that's why all spiritual part was taken out of it.
Mm.
Instead, we are seeing psychology as being cannot find the word, an instrument to bring people back into the society. So depression, one of the things, to me, depression is shows when people feel depression, it shows that this person is living their life not into the purpose. So there was a purpose, but they are not seeing that purpose.
Yeah. For me, I have a very specific definition for depression. Depression is the lack of self-expression. If a person doesn't know what he wants, who he is, what dreams if they find no purpose, if they're not expressing their wants, their needs, their desires, and everything, they are suppressing, and that leads to depression.
Mhm.
It's like everything, we're consuming everything, but we need to make sense of it. We need to reflect. We need to talk about it. We need to express our understandings, making sense of it, connect. The lack of connection, the lack of self-expression leads a person to that dark place. And emotions are very, very powerful. Shame and sadness and grief and all those emotions. If you're not able to articulate them in a way that it is causing some catharsis and healing, then is a spiral downwards, isn't it?
Exactly. And if people can be caught into that state of depression, and if some, I don't want to call it help, but some education would be there.
Education, absolutely. So that it is all about education. It's about self-awareness. Awareness is everything. Self-awareness is our key to self-empowerment. We need to know who we are. We need to there is no other way but do the inner work. There is no magic pill. There is
And if
no antidepressant in the world that is going to make anyone happy. People need to take that personal responsibility to heal themselves. And guess what? We can do that naturally.
yes, I agree with that again, 100%. And I think that it should be uh, part of educational system
But it's not.
because I was experimenting with my daughter.
Mhm.
I was bringing up my daughter in the way that she would be aware of what is happening to her emotion. She was aware of what was happening to me because I was sharing it with her. And now I can see that my daughter is different to other young people.
Absolutely.
But
My
the
son
word,
said
but
it's
you
too.
see, you see, but the bad, I would say, not very good part of it is that she is coming back to me and telling me, listen, I'm so different. It's hard for me to find people with whom I can talk.
Oh, I know. I understand. I resonate with that so much because my son feels the same. It is hard, but at least they are more aware of themselves. And,
It's
I mean,
I'm
it,
glad that I'm happy. No, I'm happy for my daughter. But what I was trying to say is, if I could raise my daughter in such a way, every single person can be raised in such a way.
absolutely, absolutely.
And lately, interesting thing, I just thought about it. Lately, I have a lot of clients who are in their teens, 17, 16,
Okay.
19. Very strange, but they just coming to me.
Uh-huh.
And what I'm doing with them, I'm talking as an adult to an adult
Right.
instead of being an authority
Mm.
who's who well with whom they cannot talk on any topic. So I think that everything should be discussed, and suicides as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Education. It is about, my aim is to inform, inspire, educate, and empower individuals who are ready to embrace the teachings and who's ready to embrace the personal responsibility element, because as professionals, we can't do it for people. We can't do it for them. We can be
No,
there with them, we can guide them, we can empower them, we can educate them, but they have to walk with their own 2 feet. There is no other way. We can,
yes, yes,
we can carry them for a while, but there will be a time when they will have to stand up and walk, because it's the natural process of healing. Right?
absolutely.
The
I
person
agree with
needs to
that.
be ready and willing and open.
I agree with that. But you know what? They should know that we exist.
Yes.
This
Yeah,
is another problem here, isn't it?
it is. Yeah. Because,
People,
schools unfortunately are not empowering them, especially young people. We have been let down ourselves. I have to, this is what the conclusion that I've gotten is that, Roger, my husband, uh, what actually killed him was the lack of self-awareness and the lack of emotional literacy. Because if he had emotional literacy, he would have asked for help, he would have dealt with his grief, he would have overcome his loss, and he would still, be here perhaps.
but
No.
see, this is the problem, Eliana, as well with men. Men are not supposed to show their feelings. This is the way they were brought up. A boy shouldn't cry. You're a man. Why are you crying?
Is that the way in Latvia as well? How men
I
will go?
think I think it's all over the world. I think it doesn't matter what culture or what language you speak. I think it's something to do actually um, with we
Yeah,
are
patriarchal.
patriarch. Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Because men are the ones who have to bring money home. They have to be strong. They who should never cry. They should never show their emotions. They should never have fear or anything. And
They have.
that's everywhere. Even I would imagine that in this country, it's even more. People are suppressed more, men.
Yeah.
Because when I was brought up in Soviet Union, women and men we were in the same boat. Everybody were supposed to work,
Okay.
but I'm not talking about emotional knowledge, but I mean in general,
Yeah.
men and women, there was no difference. We
Oh.
all were supposed to work. Uh, Women shouldn't, well, there was no chance a woman would sit at home and raise kids. That, no,
So
it
who would
was
who would raise the children?
kindergarten.
Oh wow.
Kindergarten from 1 year old,
Oh,
because it was, well, if you remember, Soviet Union was a union of a Soviet Socialist Republic, so everything was like collective conscious, so everything belonged to the government,
right. Yeah.
and everybody were supposed to work, and if you don't work you would could be sentenced, so you can get to like jail, some kind of sentence you will get.
Anyway, I think we're kind of going off a tangent a little bit. I was wondering whether we can talk a little bit about, suicide is on the rise. How can we best educate people and help them choose life, do you think?
Tell them, talk to them. Well, first of all, remember that when you kill yourself, you kill the whole world. And I
Mm,
would imagine talking like some kind of honesty here, being honest, telling people that yes, there is an option. I mean, people are choosing to take their own lives. It's a choice. See, the whole idea here is it is a choice. Do you want to take this choice?
Mm.
Because when we are trying not to talk about suicide, we're trying to hide a big pink elephant in the room. So we are all walking past and we're not trying not to notice it, but it's there.
Mm.
There is a problem. So why do we have this problem, first of all? Because of as you said, self-awareness, lack of emotions, understanding what is happening to me, telling boys, men, young men that it's normal to cry.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
see, what is happening now, our girls are trying to become men too. They are trying to suppress their emotions
that is true.
instead of, so I would imagine talking,
Yeah,
it's just in a personal, in like a personal dimension, I would say, but on the government, I don't know. It some laws needs to be changed, some education needs to be changed.
yeah, but
I think that mathematics is not as important as human life.
yeah, it isn't, is it? Let's be honest. Yeah, it is about education. So, I wrote my book to make my contribution. I have other content that I want to share. I'm creating a new talk that I'm going to talk about depression because I gave a talk and you join me and talking about from suicidal thoughts to self-empowerment, but I'm going a step uh, a step kind of not forward but backwards
Yes,
to to tackle depression before a person gets to a point that they are so depressed that they can't see anything anymore. They just like that tunnel vision that you're talking about earlier. So empowering young people in particular about what depression is and what they can do to deconstruct it and to deal with it, and make depression a tool for growth. Because once you deal with whatever it is that is causing discomfort, then we grow as a human being. We expand, our awareness expands, our self-awareness, we become more empowered.
one thought just came into my mind while you were talking about depression and suicide as what as it's a sort of red light to me. The more we have more suicide now than we used to.
Yes, it
It's
has been so mainstream.
yes, you know what I just was thinking about. Uh, to me, it shows that our world is changing. It's changing to we can change maybe well, it is changing, but our part would be to help this world to change.
Yeah.
In what way? When people, because depression is the main, I would say, the main diagnosis lately. A
Yeah.
lot of people suffering from depression. People are scared of depression instead of actually, as you said, nurturing depression, trying to find why I do feel this, because it's basically a lack of sense. So I don't know where to live. I don't know what to do with my life. But let me get back to the topic. It means that our society is changing. So something that we have in our society at the moment is not enough for people to be happy. We have phones, we have TVs, we have well, flats to live, even if it's
Much
like,
choice.
yeah, we have a lot of things, so we are more free to think. And when we start thinking, we're getting depressed. Why? Because we don't have a vision to where we can go now. I don't need to go to the factory to make money to buy bread for my children, as it was like, say, 50, 60 years ago, when I didn't have time to feel depressed. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And now I have so much time to feel depressed, which means I can think about myself. I can look inwards, not looking outwards, not trying to feed my family, but I can actually spend time looking inside myself. And when I look inside myself, that's when I feel depressed. Why? Because I don't know what to do with my life.
Yeah.
And if we can help people to, first of all, look inside, and second, to find the answer, because the answer is inside,
Mm.
I would imagine that would be what we can actually do. So
Yeah.
this is telling them,
Yeah.
educating them.
Yeah, absolutely. But a person who isn't, it's scary to go inside if you don't know how to navigate your inner landscape. So people like us, we've done it so many times because I suffer with the cycles of depression. And once upon a time I was suppressing. I didn't know what to do, to a point that I did want to check out. But thank goodness I didn't, because then I made a decision. I chose life, but I chose life in a way, on my own terms, not to become dependent and give my power away to white coats or pharmaceutical industry or anything like that. I took charge of my own healing and did it in a natural way. Like 25 years ago, when I was really depressed, and I made that decision. Today, 25 years and I haven't seen a doctor. I don't take any medication. And last year, I went through a depression. It was more like an existential crisis last year, but I knew the reason for it, and I nursed it, and I felt it, and it was not nice. It wasn't nice, but it was necessary for my growth, for me to be here today. Think, listen, I know what it's like, but hey, there is a way out. We don't have to give in. We don't have to, give our power to other people. There are natural, beautiful, holistic, organic ways that we can empower ourselves, that we can heal. And it starts with a choice.
Well, one choice, choose life. That's what you said. You can, when you choose life, the rest will come. And I know exactly what you're talking about because I had my periods of darkness as well. Uh, since my daughter was born, I never thought about dying, never, because that's when I had my baby, no way I was thinking to kill myself. I still had periods of depression, deep depression, but I was dragging myself out every time for my daughter. Before that, see, one thing I actually wanted to mention about suicide. There is not only just one way of suicide, the one we were talking today about, as killing oneself
Yeah.
by any, like, straight away, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
by doing something, one thing.
Yes.
But doing drugs,
Yeah.
drinking alcohol,
Yeah.
they all are suicide. These are suicidal actions
Mhm.
because it's all not, I mean, not like you can have a drink of wine once in a while or even two glasses of wine, but if it's a constant drinking, It does the same thing as suicide, and it leads to death, but slower. So it's a suicide which is
Slow
taking,
motion, yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's where we can start too. I mean, well, one of the ideas is to educate people that when they are going to have a drink, not just one, but 5 every night, they are trying to suppress their emotions as well.
It's numbing, yeah. I did. I'm guilty. I've done
Me
it
too. Me too. I
sometimes.
know. Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It was
So yeah.
my coping mechanism. I didn't know any better. I know
Yeah. Yeah.
now, but I didn't know any better
Yeah.
then.
It is a coping mechanism. You're absolutely right. And this is something we can talk about because, as you were telling earlier, mass media, all the films are showing us that this is the way out.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Well, this is a conversation that we can carry on perhaps and finding
For,
different
for
it's a-
hours, Eliana, we can talk about it for hours.
absolutely. But I just thought, I'd like to thank you for your time and your expertise and your experience and your willingness and openness to have this honest conversation. It's not an easy conversation by any means, but it's a conversation that needs to take place. And it's not a conversation that we talk about once a year in the month of September. This conversation hasn't really even started properly. And I wrote this book.
Lovely. Very nice. I honestly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sharing so honestly your life there. I was so inspired. I'm thinking there, I have to write a book too. I want to write a book too.
I can help
Honestly,
you.
it was so good. Like, oh, I enjoyed it very, very much. Didn't finish it yet, but I'm somewhere in the 5th chapter. But oh yeah.
Okay. Right.
So
Well,
thank
let's
you,
make
Eliana.
sure we put your link to your NeuroGraphica on. You send me the link, and I'll put it in the
Good.
description when I
Thank you.
manage to send this.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic. And I agree with you. We can carry on talking because it's lovely talking to you. You're bringing so much ideas into my head as well by sharing what you're saying. So it is fantastic. I'm so glad that you asked me to have this conversation.
Thank you. I think it's time for us to collaborate and co-create. Because we together we can do so much more and we can go so much further. So.
With this flower you have created, I absolutely love it. I think it's a beautiful idea. Yes, I have mine here. There we go.
That is amazing. Oh my
I
goodness.
love it. It's such a great idea to bring this 4 dimensions into one thing and draw it with the help of a flower. It's honestly, it's fantastic. I really, 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 really think it's a very good explanation, putting together all the bodies that we have and how we develop as a flower.
Yeah, because we are it's the flower of our consciousness. Humanity is still in its infancy. We're still developing. We're still kind of in the mud before the lotus flower emerges, I think. I'm a very optimistic and enthusiastic person, and I keep believing, I keep trusting, and I keep doing my work
Who are
way I can. But it's amazing to be able to reach out and collaborate and co-create with other women and men or other human beings who are out there, not afraid to, get stuck in and do this work. It's not an easy work, but it's a necessary work. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Liana. Thank you.
Ah.